Hey guys, welcome back to yet another video here on RevAtlas. I'm Sandeep and today we're going to be taking a look at the review of the Realme Buds Air, and we're going to be talking about all of its aspects in detail to let you know as to whether or not this is worth your money, and we'll also be comparing it to the original Apple Airpods as well. Now before we get started, please do make sure to hit the subscribe button and also give us a thumbs up at the end of the video if you happen to enjoy it. Now let's get the review rolling. Now in terms of the overall design, they're quite similar. As you can see, they are inspired by the AirPods. The shape, it's a rectangle with rounded edges, but there are slight differences in the way that it's constructed, or differences in the design language and the design choices that's been made. So for starters, you get a button here which is actually used to pair it. So once you flip it open, you actually need to press and hold this button in order to pair it, and then once you see it pop up on your Bluetooth menu, you just click it and it gets paired. Done. Once that's done, all you need to do is lift this flap and it automatically connects to your device regardless of whether it's iOS or whether it is Android. You get a breathing light here that shows you the charge level as well as the status indicator of the Buds Air itself. At the bottom you have the USB Type-C port, and this also supports Qi wireless charging. Now it's important for a product like this to have ease of access, right? So one of the issues I found with the Buds Air was the fact that the hinge design was not all that great. So for starters, there is no sort of a groove here that you can press your hand up against and sort of open it with ease. You have to actually press against the top half of the lid and then pull it open in order to actually access it. The second issue comes with the hinge mechanism itself. So you know that AirPods have sort of mechanism where there's like a plate there, it's very solid and robust, but in this it's sort of flimsy. So firstly, when you're trying to open it, you actually need to push it all the way back and then let it be for a second in order to prevent it from falling back into the case itself. So if you try this, it's very easy to close it but quite difficult to open it, and you also need to make sure that your index finger or whichever finger is there does not actually obstruct the opening, otherwise it'll come back. And even when you actually do put it all the way up there, there is a high chance that you could just tilt it and it falls back and closes the case itself. Now this is, I think, forgivable at this price point, but I would like to see maybe the future generation coming up with more sort of a refinement in this particular case. If you look at the AirPods here, you would see that the groove I was talking about is here. So you just flip it open and it's there, and you can't really close it. I mean, it just moves a bit perhaps, and it might get loose over time, but it doesn't actually shut like on the Realme Buds Air, and this AirPods actually is older than the Buds Air itself. So you can do this to snap it back in place, but on the Buds Air, you just need to tilt it and it comes back into place. Now the overall size is very similar to the AirPods. It's actually a tad bit shorter in terms of the height, a bit wider and a bit fatter. This comes with 3-hour battery life is what they quote. We got somewhere around that, sometimes lesser, sometimes more, give or take 10 to 20 minutes depending on our listening habits. And the case itself can provide you with up to 17 hours of playback according to the company's quote, but we couldn't test it all that much, all the way up to 17 hours to be honest. We did, however, get past 12 hours with ease without any issue, but I tend to not drain it out fully before recharging it, and if you're like me, then you should have no issue whatsoever. In terms of the charging, this supports USB Type-C as I said, and it also comes with the USB Type-C cable in the box. It does not come with a wireless charger, but just about any other Qi wireless charging case will work fine with this. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this works with both iOS as well as Android, and it also has a similar design in terms of the earphones itself compared to the Apple AirPods. Now, one of the main things that you'll notice different is the stem itself is more rectangular or more flatter with rounded edges compared to the fully round stem on the AirPods, but you will see similar openings for the ear tips. You will see the similar sensors which is used for wear recognition. So if you have it on your ear, for example, and you take it out, this will automatically pause the song or video for you. There are also 2 microphones, and although this doesn't support noise cancellation, it does isolate the sound a bit. But then again, by virtue of its design, because it is supposed to be a one-size-fits-all kind of design, which is similar to the AirPods, and not something like the AirPods Pro, which actually has different ear tips for different sizes, the isolation is not all that great. Of course, the saving grace is in terms of the volume itself, which it can go quite high in terms of volume. So even if you're in a busy environment, you can actually hear everything with ease, there's no issue. But it does sort of ruin your experience a bit, especially in outdoor scenarios where there's a lot of honking, a lot of sounds going around, and it does tend to enter your ears apart from the music or video that you're listening to. Now, this has touch controls, so you can actually do various controls. You can actually do a double tap if you want to play or pause the song. You can do a tap and hold if you want to launch Siri or Android Assistant, Google Assistant basically, or you can do a triple tap in order to change the song. And lastly, you also have a low latency mode, which is ideal for gaming, where you press and hold it and it activates a particular low latency mode, and you also get an audio confirmation for the same where you hear the sound of an engine roaring. So in terms of actual latency when using the headphone for videos, this was an issue I had, I think, primarily in the Bose truly wireless earphone, and I always had this lag when it came to video, when watching video, and that also made it a pain to edit videos on. So in this, there is no lag by default itself, but if you actually do enable the low latency mode, it in fact becomes even better and is more ideal for gaming. But we suggest you enable it even for video, since there's no real issue in terms of the battery life itself. But however, what does get affected is the range, and by default the range is amazing on this. Like I don't know how to put it in a quantitative terms, but I can go pretty far with even through walls and doors without it actually getting disconnected, and it performs much better than some of the other more expensive truly wireless earphones that I've tried in the past. But that is one thing that you have to keep in mind if you're going for the low latency mode. But in terms of the battery life, I didn't notice any difference, and this connects over Bluetooth 5.0. So at the bottom is the charging pin, so once you put it, the case magnetically locks them in place and it starts charging it. And overall, I feel in terms of the design, this is something that some people may like, some people may not like. I personally don't hate it, I don't like it either. I definitely prefer the in-ear sort of design, and the ones that use custom ear tips to make a more isolated or a more sealed fit. This in fact doesn't fit too well on my ears. I would say that it doesn't fall off. I did try shaking my head, doing all sort of things in order to see whether it actually falls off, and while it didn't do so, for some other people it might actually fall off, considering that there's just one size for it, particularly in terms of it being a fingerprint magnet, and secondly it also attracting quite a bit of scratches, particularly on this black variant. Now this also comes in a white variant and even the yellow variant, and to be honest, I would say that both of them are better at keeping your device look more clean in terms of the fingerprints, and also less evident scratches on the body, for example. Now of course, I would say that the yellow is probably too out there for most of you. We did kind of suggest to the Realme team when we met them to maybe have like a contrasty sort of version where you had the case in yellow or the case in black and the earphones in yellow. As you can see in this photo, we tried to mix and match, and it does work. So if you want to get both of them and want to mix and match, it works very well, and I felt that would probably look better and would appeal to more people than the entire thing being in yellow, as I feel the ear tips being in yellow is kind of cool. It makes it stand out, or you can go for the white one itself, which of course looks like AirPods, which I think for most people might be the whole reason for going for a product like this, or could be the reason why they would opt to go for white instead of the other colors as well. Now in terms of the sound quality itself, I would say that this is not really an audiophile grade earphone, right? I mean, most of the truly wireless earphones are not really audiophile grade, but then again, this is something I felt was a bit more lacking on this particular earphone. I felt that the dynamic range was not all that great, and particularly mids felt a bit drowned out. The bass is sufficient but not overpowering. If you're someone who really likes the thump, that powerful bass, then this is not going to satisfy you. The 12mm drivers are decent overall, and they are pretty big for a earphone of this size, but honestly I would say that the audio performance is above average at best, and this is a product that's more so for convenience. It's more catered towards people who watch videos, maybe take calls, less so for the enthusiast music listening sort of audience. But overall, I would say that at this price point, considering that this is a truly wireless earphone, this is well worth the money. But then again, if you're an audiophile, then I would suggest not to get these because of that issue in terms of audio quality. In terms of convenience, this is a great product, and I would say that this punches well above its weight. And if you're looking for something in terms of the same level of connectivity, battery life and features, you would have to pay easily over 10,000 for any other product from any other brand in terms of truly wireless earphones. That's it for this review, guys. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.